Hello and welcome. Very good evening to all of you. Thanks for joining us here on this Sunday edition of the Urban Debate. I'm Afrida Rehman Ali. We're looking at the issue of the US election results. Democrat Joe Biden has been declared as the president-elect of the United States. And of course, Kamala Harris has been declared the vice president, the first woman vice president ever in US history. But now with the Biden-Harris administration taking office for the next 4 years, what will change? Will there be a reversal of many of Donald Trump's policies? That is one issue that we're going to look at. But even before that, the first immediate challenge would be the transfer of power. There are litigations involved. What will it take for a smooth transfer of power from the Trump to the Biden administration? Will it require all of those litigations to be settled and closed? If Trump persists with his electoral fraud charge, what happens? We will have these questions addressed here on the discussion today. The rhetoric is, of course, harsh against Donald Trump at the moment. He's being called a sore loser, but let's not forget that there have been a lot of people who continue to back him and who has voted for him. So we will have to look at the issue of whether there is any merit in this question, in this charge, that there could be human errors, mistakes, and is there any scope for that even in a system that runs in the United States? Because remember, this is an election that was held in the middle of the pandemic, and this is for the first time that a record number of mail-in ballots came in, which made the counting process extremely laborious. And therefore, that question, can there be human errors which can be ruled out? So those issues have been raised by Donald Trump, and therefore we need to address them as well. Also, now with the Democrat president, how will policies change for India? Will there be a reversal on the climate change policy, on trade tariffs, on the issue of immigration? All those issues remain very much in focus today. And therefore, we are going to take it up with our guest this evening. Joining me here on Mir Now is Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, former diplomat and official spokesperson of the MEA. Also joining me is Pal Chaudhary, foreign editor of the Hindustan Times, and Chidanand Rajghata joining us from Washington, D.C. this evening, foreign editor of the Times of India. A very warm welcome to all of you, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us here on Mir Now. I want to go across to Chidanand Rajghata first. I'm told that you have limited time, and I just want to address the issues that I just mentioned just now about the process of transfer of power. Is that going to be tedious, given the fact that Donald Trump has come out with several allegations, and we are told that there are several lawsuits also that have to be settled? I want you to address this particular issue, and also, if you can throw some light on the systems that are in place. At the moment, we are told that, of course, the victory margin has been achieved. So Joe Biden has already been declared the president-elect. But could there be any sort of stumbling blocks there?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's going to be messy. It's going to be tedious. It's going to be long drawn. The declaration of that Biden has won the election is actually a media projection, and this is a tradition in America for over 100 years that AP and ABC essentially call the election, but the actual certification of results comes after all votes have been fully tabulated, and the Secretary of State in each state certifies that election. So there's still some time for that, and the deadline to resolve all kinds of disputes, recounts, everything is I think it's December 4th. So that will take some time. The key thing to note is President Trump not conceded defeat. And like you said, there are litigations. This will again take some time to hack it out. In many of these cases, the litigation, the points that Trump and his associates are making are fairly frivolous, and they've been thrown out in several instances. One of their major complaints was that their poll observers were not allowed into counting. That is simply not true, because counting cannot happen without poll observers from both sides being there. In fact, a judge in Philadelphia yesterday pointed it out, and the Trump campaign lawyer admitted that yes, there were poll observers, and the judge said, "So then, what's your problem?" And they had no answer. So a lot of this is, posturing, but it is a fact that it will hold up transition. And typically transition is a very smooth process in the U.S. There are transition teams in place. There's a transition protocol, And it starts with the president, conceding the election and making a congratulatory phone call to the winner. And that is a long-standing and long-cherished American tradition. Also, the speech, none of which Trump seems ready to do.
Yes.
And he's digging his heels, and many of his, associates, his campaign, have said they'll fight it out till the bitter end. So this could actually turn out dangerous, because the longer this goes on, there will be, more social strife. The victorious side is, of course, dancing in the streets. Yesterday, all day long, there's a party in front of White House. And in state capitals where Trump has won, or major cities in states Trump has won, there have been people who voted for him who have been, agitating about this. So it's a period of great stress and tension for the American system.
Yes.
My guess is it'll survive it, because at the end of the day, I think it's still a vibrant
Would you also,
democracy.
Mr. Rajghatta, like to comment on how the change from a Republican president to a Democrat president, what would it mean for India? A Biden presidency, what could that mean for India?
Right. So yeah, I see a lot of people, mostly from the right of the political spectrum in India, worried about Biden presidency, whether it will mean the issue of Jammu and Kashmir comes to the fore and so on. I personally feel, and I've said this before, that it doesn't matter really. India is too big a country to be affected by changes, and Biden has actually been a very strong proponent of good relations with India. He's the one who sort of shepherded the nuclear deal. He's a veteran foreign policy person, and he has a long record of being pro-India. Well, human rights, has come up again it's not just in the India context, worldwide. Trump really didn't care about issues like human rights. So of course it will be there, but I think India is perfectly capable of dealing with it. And for the longest time now, maybe 30 or 40 years, India has had bipartisan political support in United States, and that's because of the Indian people, and that's because of our democracy and what we stand for. So I don't think there's anything to fear. If anything, I think the relationship will be on a more solid footing. It will not be personality based like it tended to be with Trump. I think it will be issues, and it'll move on. I don't think it's back at all if there is a change in administration in Washington. If anything, there.
Okay, so Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, I want to take that point forward to you, what Mr. Chidanand Rajghatta has just mentioned, that it will only make the relationship, like he says, will be even more solid. You have served postings as the Consul General in New York as well as in the Consul General in Shanghai. So you probably would have very important perspectives on this entire issue that we are looking at, on what could change from a Republican president to a Democrat president, and you have in fact served under a Democrat president. I want to know from you that now with this victory, in many ways people believe that these are diametrically opposed ideologies. What kind of reversal do you expect? If you can tell us in terms of, say, trade tariffs, in terms of China policy, in terms of immigration, which are the areas you're expecting that there could be some important changes in the Biden presidency?
Well, first of all, Afrida, good evening, and thanks for having me join the show. A friend Chidu from Washington has already spoken, and I would happily endorse what he had to say. The relationship has grown, the relationship has come of age, and it is not a question of the personalities, it's a question of national interests. And the national interests of India and the US converge. And that is the foundation. I don't see any hiccups there. I think there will be a continuum. What will perhaps happen is that the erratic element that was introduced at times by President Trump, because he depended on which side of the bed he got off from, that will be eliminated. There will be a more predictability in the relationship. And already Joe Biden's administration has spoken of, or Joe Biden has spoken of, the work visas, removing of the the country caps on green cards. So this is one issue which was of concern to India. I in fact, see the relationship blossoming further. The only difference is that the Democrats do bring in issues like human rights, minorities issues, religious issues, etc. But they are knowing the importance of India-US relations. Even if they raise it, they will do so respectfully. And we have nothing to be embarrassed about. We are a very large country. True aberrations happen, but I would like to know one country in the world where aberrations don't happen, but we have the mechanisms to deal with it. So I am absolutely sanguine when it comes to the bilateral ties. Last word about China. Again, US will do what is in American interest, and China has challenged the primacy of the US when it comes to its military might, its geopolitical standing in Asia, its technological prowess, and US is not going to take it lying down. So our perceptions in terms of threat perceptions from China that India and US are similar. And again, there is having a commonality of interest and outlook. I think that there will be more of the same. The tone may change vis-a-vis China. After all, Joe Biden took to public office in 1972. He has 48 years of experience under his belt. He will use softer language but carry a big stick.
Right. Okay, that's an important point. Pramitpal Chaudhary, I want you to come in on this as well, on the issue of where interests converge, like Ambassador Prakash said. That is where the two countries will have to be aligned. But again, there is a larger impression that Donald Trump was more ideologically aligned with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and it may not be the same with Joe Biden. Kamala Harris, for instance, has been vocal on issues like India's Kashmir policy or CAA for that matter. And so that's why this entire question is being raised on whether it will change things in terms of the internal dynamics. Will it still be as smooth?
Well, I should point out that Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Barack Obama 11 times bilaterally as a prime minister, or in multilateral ventures. He also had President Obama visited India twice, including for the first time a U.S. president coming as chief guest during Republic Day. Barack Obama is to the left of Joe Biden, and it did not make any difference whatsoever to the Indo-U.S. relationship or to Modi's ability to work with Obama. I don't expect that to be an issue with Biden either. Biden is very much a centrist. He's highly pragmatic. He was being the head of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, looking at foreign policy for decades. So he is a very, very experienced hand. For major countries in the world, what you're really looking at, others have mentioned, as you mentioned, that it's the convergence of interests that matter. What you do domestically inside your country is a matter of secondary concern. You may be concerned if it does affect you, but otherwise your normal game is to worry about what matters to your larger national interest. And I think it's very clear for the Biden team. For them, the biggest multilateral issue is climate, which is something Prime Minister Modi takes very seriously and which Trump did not. They are concerned about China, as we've mentioned. There may be differences in tactics, but again, India is a crucial element of any policy towards China. And if you look at the priorities that have been laid out by Biden's own foreign policy team, in all of them, or a large number of them, India is very essential. And Biden's closest foreign policy advisor, or at least one of them, Tony Blinken, in an interview was asked, India is becoming more illiberal. Is there something we should be worried about? He says, look, we have differences. Even between friends, there are always going to be problems. And we are prepared we'll talk to the Indian side about these issues, as we have done in the past. But he said India is vitally important to the entire foreign policy agenda of the Biden team. So there's no question of us going after them, not working with the Indians a lot of issues.
Okay. Right, right. So, Ambassador Prakash, on that point again, I want to come to you because, you also mentioned that there is an erratic nature which is quite visible when it came to Donald Trump. And on serious issues, which Pramit Pal Chaudhary also referred to, like climate change, there seems to be an attitude of gay abandon. It wasn't taken seriously enough. And these are issues that affect the planet. So, in that sense, would a Biden administration, a Biden presidency be more serious about these issues? And he has made it clear that he will re-enter the Paris Climate Change Agreement. I also want you to reflect on the issue of how powerful the vice president will be in this respect. It's all very well to say she's the first woman vice president from Indian American origin and all of that, but can she weigh in on key decisions like, say, the immigration policy, for instance, Ambassador Prakash?
Thank you. As far as the Paris Climate Accord is concerned, we will certainly, he has already made his intentions very clear that he will rejoin it. President Trump was unique. I mean, he had a perfect solution to global warming. He said, switch on the ACs. So, global warming will disappear. Thank you very much, President Trump. But, as you very rightly said, this is a major challenge and one country cannot handle it. So it's about time US as the biggest economy and one of the most powerful country in the world to rejoin the Paris Accord will be a welcome step. And
yes,
India has been playing a very constructive role. We will certainly welcome it. So that is as far as this first thing is concerned. Now, it is a historic moment in the US that there is a lady vice president. Let's recall that the women were given the right to vote only in 1920. So it has taken 100 years for a lady to become the vice president of the US. It is a big moment. Now, having said that, in the American system, the power, effective power, vests with the president. And how powerful the vice president is, what is the kind of role that earlier it was only he, now you can say he or she will perform, would depend on the equation between the president and the vice president and what kind of role that he would like her to perform. I would think, given her personality and given Joe Biden's personality, he would certainly like her to be active, and she is being quite active, would seek her counsel. I really do not know in which area would she be active, but I think that this will be a partnership where they will supplement each other's efforts, and we'll see quite an active presidency because they have to get the economic engines starting again, handle the COVID crisis, undo some of the things that President Trump has done. And certainly geostrategically, the world is at crossroads. There are huge challenges, and every country has to do its best to overcome the challenges.
Absolutely. Pramit Pal Chaudhary, do you also want to comment on the issue of Kamala Harris and how she could be in any way instrumental in policy making when it comes to India, when it comes to South Asia? And of course, last word to you on this entire issue. And also if you can basically help us understand that with this change of regime from a Republican president to a Democrat president, what are the important issues that India can now hope for change? Like, of course, we do understand that there is absolute consensus that here is somebody more sane and more steady and hopefully more consistent. Would you agree?
Yes, he's more consistent. I think the point is not Democrat versus Republican. The real shift in the administration is that Trump was not an establishment figure. He was an anti-establishment populist. He captured the base of the Republican Party, but actually the Republican Party leadership is quite different. Biden represents the return, if you wish, of the establishment. And to some degrees, of course, so does Kamala Harris coming back, coming in as vice president, insofar as she represents California and Silicon Valley. The vice president traditionally has very little policy role to play. And in particular on foreign policy, the vice president has almost nothing to do in the US system. It might be different in this administration because all of the indicators is that Biden has said to people, privately at least, that I am going to be a one-term president. I only ran to stop Trump. I'm not actually I wasn't interested in being president. And I'm too old and I want to retire. So the assumption is that somewhere, in any case, any US president on one term, by the end of the second year, he's effectively a lame duck because the US presidential election cycle will begin by the end of 2023. So he will only have about 2 years to be president. And he supposedly chose Harris, largely because he was looking for a vice president who would take his place once the first term was over, that she would then run in 2024 as the Democratic candidate. And he chose her over others because she was somebody who had a political background, and not just because she was smart and had policy knowledge. So you're really looking at a Harris who in many ways will be training to be the president in 2024. So that's the main difference that will be there. She's concerned, but keep in mind.
Okay, so there are prospects, real prospects for Kamala Harris, and that's an interesting point you made, Pramitpal Chaudhary. We unfortunately have to leave it at that. Thank you so much, Mr. Chaudhary and Ambassador Prakash, for joining us and giving us your time this evening. Yes, it's going to be a long process from here on as well. The final date is 20th January 2021, when you would actually have the new president take office, and there are certain processes and procedures before that will have to be completed. Thank you all for joining us here on this edition of the Urban Debate.